kick it off. And welcome everybody to this special tasting opportunity that we have with Mari and now with Jake. So that's very, very exciting. And we are going to start off by just introducing, you all know me, I'm Jenna Flynn. I am and I'm going to share a little bit about my why. I think most of you know this by now, because I've shared my story, but my story starts with this bottle of Edna Valley Pinot Noir. I had my first tasting about two years ago, I guess it was, and I had a tasting to raise money for an adoption that my husband and I were starting to pursue, and we needed a lot of money to raise money for the adoption that we were about ready to go through. So we did a lot of different fundraising. Another CE did the tasting, and Stephanie was present at the tasting because we are very good friends and we're neighbors. So she was there. She decided to join right in with ONEHOPE, and we immediately fell in love with Edna Valley Pinot Noir, which she is drinking now and I would be drinking. I am collecting one bottle for every single month I make it through this pregnancy, so to celebrate myself. So I'm hoarding this. And we decided that we were going to keep buying Edna Valley and supporting Stephanie through her beginning of her ONEHOPE career. And she kept trying to get me to join and I was doing something else at the time, and it just wasn't the right time. And finally she took me to Jersey, where Jake was, and they rented a small Airbnb and showed everyone how to bring the tasting.
Oh yeah, baby.
And I couldn't pass up the opportunity to join. He gave me a great opportunity. Left me with a bottle of Sparkling Rosé, and off I went. The next day I joined. I joined honestly for the wine discount because I was buying so much Edna Valley Pinot Noir that I needed to get it at a discount at that point. And I wasn't fully expecting to do what I'm doing now with the business. However, when I was doing my first tasting, I was reading the tasting notes, just as we all do, the winemaker's notes, and I hadn't fully prepared for what I was about ready to do, but I looked down at the tasting notes and I saw in the very corner of the paper there was an elephant about to share the Edna Valley Pinot Noir. So it's right here. So there's a little elephant. And when I think about my son who passed away almost 9 years ago, Connell, elephants are what connect us. So I knew at that time that this was for me. Immediately, I started sharing my why. I started sharing what he meant to me, and I felt a greater connection between him and I, because I hadn't shared my story in so long. So I got a little piece of myself back with the Edna Valley Pinot Noir, and I decided that I was going to grow my business as much as I possibly could, because I was able to then give back to the March of Dimes in his memory all year round, not just around our March for Dimes walk that we do every year. So since then, it has been a one crazy journey, but I have put 100% effort into this business, and my goal now is to be able to return to stay home with the baby that is about to be born in a couple months and my daughter Abby, and stop teaching once again, which I've done before. So I hope to be able to grow the fundraiser that I'm doing right now. It's already up to $7,000. So giving back more than $700 to the March of Dimes. So I'm very, very excited about that, and that just started since quarantine time. And that is my mission. That's my mission, to give back to March of Dimes with every single order that I do out of the party. That's a little bit about my why and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But your why constantly is changing as you grow with this business. And I think that, well, for me, you want to stay true to your why, why you're doing what you're doing, you can do great things. So that's about my why. So if you have the Edna Valley Pinot Noir, make sure that you give it a try. And if you haven't ordered it, team, make sure that you order it because it's one of my personal favorites. Delicious.
I love the Edna Valley Pinot Noir. Thank you for sharing your why. That's a super powerful why. I love that we connected in Jersey, and I'm kind of like chuckling to myself because now I'm recalling the conversation around like in the kitchen area afterwards, and I think that some people's why is already there when they join, and some people find their why through ONEHOPE. And then, as you said, a lot of people, it's like evolving along the way. My story is the same. When I started it, my why was one of my best friends from growing up getting blood cancer, inspired me to be more fearless than I was, and honor life as being really short and a fleeting moment. And I entered with that as my why, and since then my why has grown into a lot of other things, and I've met a lot of other people impacted by the causes that we serve. But you're definitely in that group now, hearing your story, and so I think I'm continually re-inspired by the people who are part of our mission, and giving hope, and how they do it is different, and how people share wine is different. But at the end of the day, sharing wine and giving hope is like one of the commonalities with everybody in the organization, a common thread of being built on hope and rooted in purpose. And so we look for people who are rooted in purpose to be a part of the organization, and that's who we've attracted at the home office level. But I think it also permeates to attracting people like that in our cause entrepreneur community, and you're a perfect example of that. So I'm so glad that we're getting to do this with you today.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jenna, this is really cool, and thanks for sharing that. I love the Edna Valley Pinot Noir too, and it's a special place where we source those grapes and bottled in Edna Valley, which is right there on the California Central Coast. This particular bottling, I think, is the best one yet. It's just really, really dense, and it's got a lot of really pretty fruit. The flavor profile and the textures are a little bit bigger than our last vintages, and just more intense, beautiful, beautiful wine. So I'm glad that you're enjoying it too.
Yes, I'm going to have to stock up on another full case at 30% off before the sale ends.
That's a good idea.
Great idea.
It's a unique time in the world and in the company to be doing that. But I'm so stoked about that people are stocking up, because they tend to share it even more when they're stocked up. So it's good. And Mari, you can't turn on your video yet, can you? You want to try it?
Yeah,
because maybe she can show you where we are in the Napa Valley.
Yeah, where are you again coming from?
We're coming from a AVA, which is American Viticultural Area, called Howell Mountain. And Howell Mountain's one of, it's 14 AVAs now in Napa, right? Or is it 13? I always go back and forth.
It's still 13.
Oh yeah, and Coombs is maybe 13. So it's one of the AVAs. It's
I think you're breaking up. Hang tight, everybody. Oh, they got kicked off. Oh, there they are.
Oh, there they are.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, you guys.
Hi.
We're back. We're going to take you guys on a little tour. in Napa now, so you guys can actually see a live look. There's Jake. He's driving me around. He was just telling you before my phone switched over about Hell Mountain, where we were actually up there visiting, checking out some grapes in this really neat mountaintop.
Yeah, and Howell Mountain's the furthest to the northeast of the Napa Valley, and it's up just a little north and to the east of St. Helena, which is a pretty famous little vineyard area. Right now, we just pulled down from the mountain into the Rutherford region. So we passed on a road called Zinfandel Road, and there's a handful of, some of the more iconic wineries in Napa Valley on this little stretch here. We're about 2 miles away from pulling into our property. That's at the southernmost part of Rutherford, and right now we're at the northernmost part. And Mari's showing you out the window a vineyard, or both vineyard, but the mountains behind it are called the Mayacamas. And the Mayacamas are a pretty big mountain range. At their highest level, they're a little less than a mile high. The peak behind our property is a little over 2,000 feet high. It's called Mount St. John. And this mountain range, the Mayacamas, is what separates Napa and Sonoma. And so you're kind of seeing a little tour here. And as we drive up onto the property, we'll pull up to Estate 8. And that's actually where I'm dropping Mari off to do the rest of your guys' call. Right here, you're passing Gurgich Hills. That's a recognizable little brand. BV Vineyard, Bulia Vineyards. And Andre Chelychev, if you Google BV, you'll find he kind of helped put Napa on the map amongst the greatest regions of France, with Burgundy and Bordeaux and Tuscany and Italy. And so as we're cruising up here, we're just getting to kind of the middle of Rutherford, and we'll be there in about a mile. So we weren't necessarily anticipating giving you a tour of Napa Valley during it, but it is kind of fun. And I would say it's probably one of the more unique ways that we've ever started off one of these. So you can just tell people you got a one-of-one little drive tour. That's the sign right there showing Oakville. Oakville's another 2 miles away. So just to the south of Rutherford is Oakville, and just to the north is St. Helena. And Rutherford kind of is hugged by Oakville and St. Helena, two great regions. And so you are really getting to see a lot of the beauty of the Napa Valley.
Yeah, this is pretty fun. This is my first tour of Napa with Jake as well. So it's pretty fun. We're going to have to go more places together and share wine and give hope through these fun virtual meetings. This is super fun, you guys. Hopefully you can see a little bit out here. We're just pulling up onto the property, which is, of course, where our own estate grapes come from, and we farm organically. We're building our wine facility, which is amazing, and also home to private residents. So we're just pulling in here, guys. You can check this out. This is going to be all new Cabernet vineyard right here. We just planted these crepe myrtles. Has anybody earned their way to Napa yet on this call?
Stephanie has.
I have.
All right, Stephanie. Well, we will be seeing you soon, and I hope we're going to see a few more of you. That's a live look at the winery there, and here's the gate. This is Block 3 that you guys know, our Fumé Blanc.
Yum.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
That's what we have on here for tonight.
I'm thinking of dark cherry right now at that Edna Valley. I think the tasting notes are cherry cola on it, and you do get some of that earthiness, that Russian River, and kind of that forest floor. Not quite as much with Edna Valley, but a lot of the earthy notes that we love about that region too. And yeah, this has been your Napa tour section of the virtual tasting there. And,
home sweet home. Home sweet home. Thanks, Jake. This was a lot of fun today.
And he loved being, I'd be your valet or.
Thank you, Jake.
Yeah. Yes. Hi. Oh. Oh, you were just saying hi. Hi.
I was saying thank you. Does anyone
Oh, you're welcome. I'm
questions or anything for Jake?
Joined her for like the first 5 minutes, and then I got to.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yay, you guys, this is really actually fun. This is like extra bonus time. So let's see. Yeah, so here's the home of our brand, Estate 8. Really, really great spot where we make a huge impact. And you can take a look over here. There's the winery again. Jake, you should show them your favorite rocking chair.
Oh, yeah. I like the rocking chair. It's my favorite spot in the house right here. Right on the front step here. Oh, I might just sit here for a while. So,
I love it. It's been a good day.
It's been a good day. That was a good trip. All right.
Wine. You need the glass in your hand.
Mm-hmm.
That's so true. So we're gonna guys through the home. Be kind of fun to show you actually since we're on video, and then we'll go into a more traditional setting.
I think you froze.
This is the really neat piece that we have in here, which is an old wine press. So you guys can see that. This is like one of the first ones.
The house is a reflection of the cooperative, of the group that helped make this property possible. So we had about 100 individuals and families who helped make our vineyard possible. And so that.
Oh, we lost them. So we got a little bonus, bonus tour.
I don't want to take your office.
No, this is fine. I'm not going to sit in there.
You aren't?
I really am going to go.
All right, guys, we are getting set up to really. How's that sound? What else are you pouring, Jenna? Tell us what else you're pouring.
So I have the Celebration Brut, the Fumé Blanc, the Sonoma Rose, the Edna Valley Pinot Noir, the Napa Valley Reserve Red Blend, and the Napa Valley Reserve Cab.
Awesome.
I picked all reserves.
That's amazing. Well, does anybody have any open that they're tasting that they want to kick it off with and share and learn more about?
Erica has the Celebration Brut. She has all 6 that she's planning on doing.
Erica's my hero tonight.
With you if I could. We have the Cab and the Reserve Red Blend for my husband to try.
Amazing. So Jenna, we're just knocking on your meeting door here, and we will go live with you from the big screen.
Okay, awesome. Oh, one person is waiting.
All right.
Hi.
Hey there.
Hi.
All right. So Mari's, this is usually where the office where I work out of. Mari's going to take my seat here. But the last thing I was saying was just that how the families in Old World France and Italy would all share a common press. And so we really look at our property being very similar, that, you know, it's one winery, but there's been a lot of families, a lot of cause entrepreneurs, our whole community effort. And so we use it as a reflection that, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together, and bringing a collective together to pull off really amazing things. And this property wouldn't be possible. We're smack dab in the heart of Napa Valley, amongst the greatest wine families in the history of Napa and the U.S. and in arguably the world. And all possible because so many people believed in this vision. And so it's a place to celebrate everybody and to ask everybody at harvest time effectively to come to the press together and bring their harvest together and make an impact collectively together. So that was that piece that Mario was showing, and it cut out a little bit while we were doing it. But I'm going to throw open these curtains too, so you can maybe see the vineyard in the background a little bit and get a little brightness since it's not too bright today. And Mari, you can take over the middle seat and I'll sit in with you guys.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, this is when we do like Zoom driving. Like, okay, Jake's got shotgun now. I'm gonna drive for a little while. He can show everybody the view. Anyway, so fun to have all of you on here. There's quite a few of you, so it's really fun to be able to have a tasting with you guys, especially as a team. And thanks again, Jenna, for all your leadership to bring your team together. I'm sure this is going to be really useful for you guys, and feel free to ask questions. That's what we're here for, is to help you guys, help you grow your businesses, help you understand a little bit more about our wines and about our story, so that you can share more wine and give more hope. So kicking it off with your Celebration Brut. This is definitely a favorite of ours here at the estate. It is super duper delicious. And one reason is that you'll see on the bottom of this bottle, it says Méthode Champenoise.
I have a special Celebration Brut style for you.
Whoa, whoa.
You want me to bring you in a Napa red wine?
Mic drop. Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Jake. Oh man, Jake's my wingman. This is good. You can't ask for a better wingman. Like, he's really, really, truly the best. So Celebration Brew, I've got glitter. Some of you guys have non-glitter. You'll see at the bottom right under Celebration Brut, it says Méthode Champenoise. And that is the traditional champagne method in translated from French. So what is that? What does that mean? This is made in the traditional method that champagne in France is made. I think a fun thing to talk about here too, that a lot of people don't realize, is that champagne is only champagne when it's from Champagne. So that means there is actually a region. I remember learning this and my mind was blown, like, what? Champagne isn't just bubbly stuff? Like, I just thought everything was champagne that was bubbly. But, you know, the French like to keep it real, keep us on our toes. And they have reserved the right to call champagne champagne when it's from their region. So, you know how we just told you we were up at Howe Mountain and Jake talked about the multiple different AVAs, or American viticultural areas? Well, there are a lot of appellations of origin, is what they call them in Europe, where different grape varieties are grown. And they get so crazy in the old world about what can be grown there, that, like, if I wanted to make champagne out of Pinot Grigio grapes, no, you would not be allowed. You cannot make champagne out of just any grapes that you want. You actually have to make it out of the determined grapes for the region. So that goes for like all these wines that you know and love by their name for where they have come from. So Champagne, Burgundy, Bordeaux, you've had Chianti. So if Chianti is grown in the Chianti region, which that's where it's from, it can only be made of Sangiovese and a couple other blenders. So they have a lot more control in Europe about how they market, how they label, and what is actually grown. So they actually even control down to the farmer of what they're able to grow. So fun fact is that we can do whatever we want here, which makes it a lot more fun in terms of winemaking. We have a lot of creativity and of course a couple challenges with what grows where and how and what's the best wine from what region, right? But kicking it off here, Jake just poured me some
Napa Red Blend.
Napa Red Blend. I tell you guys, you
And we got the
cannot
Napa
get
Cab.
a better wingman here. This is like special day for me. It feels like it's my birthday. Jake's poured me wine. We're on a trip to Hell Mountain.
It wasn't your birthday that long ago. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. We're birthday buddies too.
So, Mari, I know before you talked about what the correct way to open a bottle of champagne was. I feel like, what is that?
I'm really glad you asked me, because I feel like that's actually one of the most important things to learn, because it can be super embarrassing when you're not ready to like blow the cork off and have half of the bottle spill all over. And I end up having the reverse problem where Jake's like, Mari, let's celebrate $5 million donated. And I'm so used to how I open my wine that I can't get the cork to like pop off and spray everywhere and have a celebration.
I took care of it though.
You did.
I took care of it.
You know how to
spray
do that.
a lot.
So, but that's a great question. So what I like to do is first take off the top part of your foil where the little dotted edges.
Mm-hmm.
And once you take that off, you remove the foil, and now you have the cage, the metal cage. Underneath that is your cork. So on the metal cage, I always like, if you have one, and they do this in restaurants a lot too, is to have a tea towel or, you know, some kind of cloth napkin, some kind of kitchen towel that you can use. And I like to put that over the top of the cage. I lost Jake. He's out of here. And so I like to put the tea towel on top, and then I start untwisting the cage, but I don't take the cage off, okay? And so I untwist the cage. I'm gonna jump up here to show you really what I do. Untwist the cage is still on. I have either my hand or the tea towel over. Now that cage is using as like a grip on the cork, so it's easier to get out. And then what I do is I hold on to that and I tilt my bottle at 45-degree angle. This is key for not having the wine kind of pouring out. So if you're pouring it like this, you're gonna have more wine pouring out or spilling. So 45-degree angle, it works every time. You can either move the bottle, which is something that the somms and professionals definitely do, is they hold the cork at the top and they move the bottle. Or, you know, you can also just move the cork. You could really do either way, but the pros move the bottle as they loosen the cork. And ideally, when you're opening any cork, including champagne or sparkling wine is what we call all the sparklers that we make in California. When you do that, you'll just hear a little tiny hiss, a little tiny bit of air. So it's a fun thing to work on, just for fun. Next time you open some sparkling wine, you can get better and better at it. But you just hear a little bit of a hiss when the cork comes off. And then you hold it there, leave that 45-degree angle, and you'll see some of the gas release. And you'll see, you can definitely do the pop too, by the way. I definitely recommend that. I heard that in the chat box. But anyway, that's what the pros do at the table side, because of course, if you're going to a fancy restaurant, nobody wants to hear corks popping all the time. So, so it's just a really, really slow release. And then it's about 10 seconds at 45-degree angle, and then you're ready to pour. Another fun pouring fact you didn't ask about, but I'll just share with you guys, is I like to pour a little bit of a teaser. So if you pour, instead of trying to pour every glass full, like maybe before a tasting, or if you're at a party or a gathering, and then you gotta wait, right? Because it bubbles up and then you're waiting. I go through and pour what I call a little teaser. So I just pour a little bit in each glass, and then I go up and refill. And once you have a little bit in each glass, you don't have it bubbling up too. So another fun fact for you guys, I'm gonna look in the chat box and see if you guys had any other questions. But no swords, I like that. Well, we can do swords.
Mari, have you ever sabered a bottle?
Yes, and maybe you'll get to do that when you're up here in Napa.
It's on my bucket list. Jenna will tell you my love for champagne. That is on my bucket list.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, so this is, Yeah, a great bottle of wine. The second fermentation is in the actual bottle, which is really cool. That's how it gets its bubbles. So during the fermentation process, you get CO2 production, and that's what makes all the great bubbles. And with that, you have some added complexity and richness. And these bubbles are really small. Actually, the bubbles in sparkling wines and Prosecco vary in size, if you can believe it. And that's actually what impacts the texture and creaminess across your palate. So this wine, in comparison to our Vintner Brut, which is also delicious, just a little bit different style and different process, is going to be a little bit creamier. It's going to just be a little bit more complex. And of course, you have that second fermentation in the bottle, so you have a lot more aromatic bouquet coming from the fermentation in the bottle. So this is a special bottle. I love it. I love the Celebration Brut. I love the Celebration Rainbow Brut, especially celebrating Pride this month. That brioche that's in the tasting profile, that like fresh baked bread, you know, like a brioche roll, that's actually comes from the yeast that were fermenting the second fermentation in the bottle. And so that is like another key descriptor of knowing that you have kind of elevated quality in your sparkling wine.
Awesome. That was full of facts that I did not know. Awesome.
A lot of fun facts for you guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. What else are you guys pouring?
I think Erica has it. Are you tasting it, Erica?
I am. I'm trying to finish it quick.
Oh, it's fine. Have you had the Brut before? Do you have a preference?
Me?
Yeah.
I have had the Brut and I really like it, and I really like this, but I feel like I would need both of them to try side by side.
Both of them? Yeah.
They're both really, really good.
Yeah, I've had the Vintner Brut, but I haven't had the Celebration Brut. Stephanie will.
It's good. I can really taste the brioche in it. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really pretty, just a little bit more complexity, but a lot of great flavor. This wine is mostly made predominantly of Chardonnay grapes that are sourced throughout California, but primarily also up here in the North Coast area, Sonoma, a little bit in Mendocino. So just a great wine with a lot of really pretty flavors that mimic Chardonnay, which is kind of cool because when you look at the back label and you're like golden apple and pear, those are the key descriptors for Chardonnay. So right off the bat, that helps you tag the story, right? And tell a little bit more about the grapes that are in this wine, which is primarily Chardonnay. And then a little bit of citrus, just a little bit of kind of lemon zest, almost like Meyer lemon in there. And then that brioche from that second fermentation. So it's a delicious wine. I love it.
Great. Glad you tried it, Erica. Okay, the next one we have is either the Fumé Blanc or the Rosé, the Sonoma Rosé. I have not had the Sonoma Rosé, but I have had the Fumé Blanc, and it's one of my favorites. Which one shall we do first?
Awesome. Well, let's, I'll talk a little bit about the Fumé Blanc, which you guys got to see growing right out here when I pulled up to the estate and I showed you the grapes that are growing right here on our estate property. Do you guys see those? Mm-hmm. That's block 3. That is our Fumé Blanc block. So if you are wanting to know a little bit more about this wine, one thing I like to share is the Matryoshka dolls. I don't know that all of you have seen me do the demo with my Matryoshka doll set from Russia, but you can imagine, right? You go from biggest to smallest. So we just went from biggest, meaning this appellation is California. This is from across California, right? The designate here in our Vintner collection is California. And then we start getting smaller and smaller. So that's our biggest doll. Well, what's inside California, right? Inside California is the Central Coast, where the Edna Valley is from, the Edna Valley Pinot Noir. Inside California, inside the Central Coast is Edna Valley. So that's even smaller doll, right? And then when we go to the Fumé Blanc, we go from California to smaller, we go to Napa Valley, where you guys just got your tour. And from Napa Valley, we went to Rutherford. You guys saw us drive right into Rutherford from Howell Mountain, which is pretty cool. And you even kind of saw down the road the sign that said going to Oakville. But we went to Rutherford. And then we went to our actual property, okay? So the dolls are getting smaller and smaller because all this is inside California, the bigger doll, right? So we went California, Napa Valley, Rutherford, to the estate. And now we're at a single block. You saw it for yourself. There's nothing that tastes so good as when you're visiting the place and you can taste something that comes from the place. And that's why I hope you guys are all going to be here in Napa and can join us this fall, because it's truly special when you can connect with this special place. So when you think about back to Matryoshka dolls, and you've got the biggest one and then you've got the smallest one, well, why is that so small? Yes, it was nestling inside California, but it's also so much smaller of a place, right? And the wines are smaller, they're rare, they're precious, and they're usually valued more. So as we're tasting reserves and people ask like, well, what makes a reserve? Or, you know, why are they a higher price? Why is the Edna Valley more than our Pinot Noir from California? That's the answer that I like to give, is that visual of showing all these places and honing it down to a very particular spot where there's nothing else that tastes like this. So this is Sauvignon Blanc, which is grown here on Block 3. And this Sauvignon Blanc is fermented in oak. So this goes through a barrel fermentation, giving it a lot of richness, a little bit of creaminess. That fermentation that made this creamy is also making that Fumé Blanc really creamy, meaning that compared to a Sauvignon Blanc that wasn't in oak, like our Block 4 Sauvignon Blanc, this just has more mouthfeel, a little bit bigger, just more creaminess and soft, and it has a little kind of smokiness from the oak. So this is one of Jake's favorite wines, the Fumé Blanc we're talking about.
I love the Fumé Blanc. I mean, I'm wearing a hat that says Fumé on it, okay? See that? And it's Greek. Fumé. White smoke.
The white smoke, yes. So this is a really fun wine to tell that story and to really get an understanding of our reserve collection as a whole, and all these small little pockets that we kind of drove you through a few today, and understanding like why and what like inspiring curiosity really is what these wines do, is like, well, what about Central Coast tastes like that? What about Rutherford tastes like that? Why is Rutherford a great area to grow Sauvignon Blanc in? That might be your next question. So Rutherford here is in the heart of Napa Valley. You saw some of the mountains on both sides. Napa Valley is this big, long, beautiful valley that spans from the south, which touches the Carneros region right along the San Francisco Bay, all the way north to where the Russian River comes in. So we get a lot of airflow and this Mediterranean climate that cools down at night. It gets warm during the day, and then we have dry summers and wet winters. Those are the key fundamentals to Mediterranean climate. And did you know that in our world, there's only about 2% of the earth that is Mediterranean climate? So we throw it out there like, oh, everybody that eats Mediterranean is so healthy, Mediterranean this and Mediterranean that. But guess what? It's really a small area that is actually influenced by Mediterranean climate. And those are some of the best grape growing regions because of all the reasons why I just told you.
That's why everybody wants to go to Greece, France, Italy, and then over into our region of US. It's a very specific longitude and latitude on both the southern and northern hemispheres.
And
that's smelling
so
good.
this is the Napa Cab right here.
Napa
I don't know what
Cab.
vintage year they have. What vintage year are you drinking of the Napa Cab, Jenna?
My husband has 2016.
Perfect. That's the vintage I got too.
This
So
is
we're drinking the
smelling
same thing. It's
really
smelling really
good.
good. Let me
Yeah.
give it a little. Oh yeah.
I might have to take a sip of it.
Oh yeah. There you go. And then pull it
Oh,
around.
what did you say Fumé translated to?
Fumé means smoke in French. And so the Fumé Blanc is smoke white, loosely translated. In France, it's Blanc Fumé, so it's white smoke. And for Robert Mondavi, what he always brought back with him was that visual of the fog that would set down on the vineyards, in the Sauvignon Blanc vineyards, when he was driving through the Loire Valley, when he first went over to visit all the first growths of Bordeaux. And when he did that, he watched early in the morning that fog burn off, and it looked like white smoke was leaving the vines. And they said, that's the Blanc Fumé. And so that visual and that story stuck with him. And so when he came back, he took his Sauvignon Blanc and he put it into new French oak and oak aged it the way that they do in France. And it's this old world white wine making style. And when he did that, everybody, all of a sudden, the Sauvignon Blanc that he couldn't sell and was like 2 years back stock, all of a sudden was selling at 2 times the price, and you couldn't keep it on the shelves. And so it's this great story of how like brands matter and words matter and stories matter when you think about a brand, and that a brand is really just a reflection of a story. It's a reflection of common values. And so for us, it's a reflection of our values when you think about our name, ONEHOPE, of unity, hope, authenticity, and empowerment. And 2 of our values are in our name. And so I wear our brand as a badge of who I am every day, over my heart most of the days when I'm wearing the vest, and sometimes over my brain when I'm wearing a hat that's a ONEHOPE hat. But I think that in addition to brands being really just being stories and people behind the brands and trust and values, when you think about storytelling and that story of Fumé Blanc, it's really celebrating the tradition that came before us, because right next door right here is Robert Mondavi and where he planted roots. And we like to celebrate the tradition of Napa Valley and the old world winemaking tradition. And when you think about Fumé Blanc, that was Robert Mondavi taking an old world tradition and bringing it to Napa and creating a new tradition there. And so it's this great balance of tradition and innovation. And on this property now, Robert Mondavi next door, that's old world to us. That's the old guard of Napa Valley. And we're kind of the person who's creating this harmony between tradition and innovation, consistency and progress. And we think that in the middle of that, when you thread the needle at the intersection of tradition and innovation, is ONEHOPE. And tradition in a sense of the style that Marty makes our wines, the way she barrel ages them, how we're growing grapes here, and still making world-class wines on the shoulders of giants who came before us, but also like paving our own path, being the first wine brand of significant size here who's majority women run, being the first one that has thousands of people around the nation democratizing this Napa Valley wine tasting experience into people's homes and now into people's computer monitors. And so that's why we tell the story of old world France to old guard Robert Mondavi, to really how we've found this balance between old world tradition and innovation.
I love that. So I feel very inspired right now, because every time I come back from a vineyard, you guys, I'm like, that's when I'm inspired. Right?
How pretty was that vineyard? We were walking through like
God.
rolling hillside vineyards in Hell Mountain that were stunning.
In the middle of a forest, and it like probably we were at about maybe 1,500 feet elevation, maybe even a little bit more. So really inspired. But I was thinking about it, Jake. If Fumé Blanc was Robert Mondavi's innovative approach to marketing, what are we going to come up with? Because I just went quickly to like Tigre Rojo, like the fierce red, or like, where is our next story in our wine?
I don't know. I mean, I would say that, I mean, we definitely own the dress trademark to the glitter and shimmer bottle, but we've always kind of joked that we didn't want that to be what defined us, because it's a really fun product. And even though we take our wine seriously, we don't take ourselves too seriously. And that's why we were okay with the glitter bottle and shimmer bottle being a big part of who we are. But I own the URL Fumé Noir. So that idea of black smoke and creating a Pinot Noir that's more oak aged and French oak, we can play around with that. So that's one. And I think our cause entrepreneur is probably, for right now, if you were going to say what is our equivalent of Fumé Blanc, ours is our cause entrepreneur program. And so that's the most innovative new thing that we've brought from old world tradition and like jump forward in innovation, I think.
I love it. I love it. I know, it just gets all the creative juices flowing, right?
Awesome.
That's good. Your husband's enjoying this right now, Jenna. I guarantee it. Lucky him. What's your husband's name?
Ryan.
Ryan? What's up, Ryan?
How you doing?
Thanks for supporting Jenna in her business and in her mission with us.
Sure.
It's hard work, to have to drink all the reserve.
It's working out for me. I get a lot of wine out of it.
That's what I was thinking. It's an easier hobby to support.
We order him cases of the Vintner Cab. That's his go-to drink. So we just keep ordering cases of that.
Well, I'm gonna bid you guys adieu because I've got to jump over to a dinner meeting that I'm running to. But one of the things we often cheers to on the property is we'll tell people that a good wine will remind you of the wine, but a great wine will remind you of the place and the people you're with. So hopefully you guys are able to take a snapshot of who you're with and your team and everything. And cheers to great people and great places. You want a little? We'll get it up there for you, Jenna. Thank you guys for letting me drop in and kind of jump onto your tasting fun. without even giving you a heads up.
We had like a vineyard safari tasting, basically. It was pretty cool. Like from Hell Mountain all the way down, we walked through all the regions, and we actually did like the whole Matryoshka doll, like right to the Fumé Blanc, which we just landed on. So that was pretty epic. Fun.
Yeah. Hey Jenna, don't tell everybody else about how this tasting went, or else they'll be like, I want the Napa tour tasting where they go from Hell Mountain up to the property and then drive up and give like a little tour of the home, and then it's Jake and Mari and everything, and then
this is our little secret. Yeah. If you know what I mean.
My team. That's about it.
Thank you guys though. Cheers. And Jenna, thanks so much for your hard work. All the rest of you, thank you all for being a great team. And we're really excited about the momentum of your team. There's a lot of leaders and stuff amongst you. And we're here for you. As much as you want to use this platform to make the world better and shape it in the way that you see it nourishing the future, we're here for you to support you guys with wine and hopefully a great community and a lot of fun. So cheers.
Thank you.
Mari, thank you.
Bye, thank you. That was
a
really fun afternoon, Jake.
Yeah, that was fun. We'll recap on the property in due time.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, bye.
So I see, Jenna, you've got the Sonoma Rosé out there. Ooh, that's another one of my new hot favorites. Oh yeah.
I can't wait to try this one.
Try that soon. Okay, thanks. Yeah, Sonoma Rosé. So this actually just came out of the cellar. This is a really cool story about, us kind of taking some wines back that we knew were actually going to show really well when we brought them back out just in time for summer. So this is a great example of that. Wine has a life. It's not just like, doesn't taste the same today as it's going to taste 2 years from now. It doesn't taste the same as today as it did 2 years ago. It changes. And this was one of those magical wines that came out of the cellar. We started tasting it and I was like, oh my goodness. This is like a black, okay, stay with me, black raspberry popsicle. Like it is so intense. And so it is just so pronounced, not red raspberry, but like a black raspberry. It's got so much fruit. It's really balanced acidity, so you can just sip this wine and enjoy it. A little hint of like that orange peel kind of note, a little bit of floral, but you're not going to pick up a lot of the floral at this point. After the wine has aged a little bit in the cellar, you're mostly getting to that heart of that fruit, and you're getting the really pretty rich textures of this wine. So this is a really special wine that I love because it is so intense. Does anybody have a glass of it right now that you're enjoying?
Erica does.
I do.
Erica does. Oh yeah, she's keeping up. Oh man,
I've got all of them. My husband's laughing at me. He's sitting next to me going, "You're just on here chugging wine. Like, are they wondering what you're doing?"
You're like, "No, I'm participating."
Yeah, I'm like, "No, they just keep talking and I keep pouring and trying it again."
Yeah. Well, tell us what you think, Erica, of this rosé.
I think it's very good. I think it's really good. I taste a lot of fruit, like you said.
Yeah, it's really pretty. So this is kind of where it's fun to talk about temperature, because we've got red wine and white wine. Typically we chill white wine and we keep reds at like a room temperature, right? Like that's kind of standard operating procedure. Like, oh, I gotta chill my whites and then my reds are fine. But rosé is pretty fun because it is made in a white wine making style, but it's made from red grapes. So what do you do then? Well, certainly you can chill this down and enjoy it. But you don't have to. This is a great wine also if you want to enjoy a little bit more of the flavor and the texture, especially now that this wine came out of our cellar, which is a great selling point, by the way. Like, hey, we put this away in our cellar. It's out now just in time for rosé season. If you want something different and interesting from Sonoma County, you've got to check this wine out. So this is a blend of Grenache and Barbera grapes, so red grapes. We squeeze them and we get a little bit of that color from the skins of the grapes. And then that juice, fresh juice, it goes into stainless steel where it is fermented. So that's the process of making rosé. Along with that little bit of color, you also get a little bit of texture, and you get a little bit of richness that makes this wine age worthy. Now, this is not common. People are not seeking out to cellar their rosés, but this was something that we wanted to educate our community on and share with you guys, like what can happen if you hold these wines. And we know it's hard to do when they're in your hot little hands. It's hard to hold on to them, right? I know I'm not too good at doing that, even in my own house. So really great wine, great for, of course, the summer season, but I also love it in fall. I don't know how much longer we're gonna have this because it is limited release, but this is a great wine for fall, moving into Thanksgiving and some of the fall holidays where you can enjoy a lot of food with family and friends.
So, Mari, would you say that this is going to be sweeter than like the French that we had, the rosé, right?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's really a lot sweeter, but it's that, so fruit is funny because fruit in wine is like the main component because it comes from a grape. And so most of that flavor is fruit driven from the grapes. But I think that fruit is interesting because the more fruit you have, the more sort of perceived sweetness that you have. So a lot of times it seems like it's sweeter just because there's more fruit, or it seems like it's sweeter just because there's a little less acidity. So in this wine, I don't think it's a lot sweeter than the French rosé, but it has a little bit less acidity, a rounder mouthfeel, and a lot more fruit.
Got it.
Jenna, this was the one I just had last week.
Yeah.
I drank it in front of like a campfire, and you know how much I love dry wines, especially our French rosé. I didn't think this was sweet. I thought it was really balanced.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really balanced, perfect around a campfire. Would be really nice. But this, you know, you could serve at a luncheon. You could enjoy for like brunch. You know, with your, you know, social distance neighbors and friends. But it's just kind of an elevated one step up from, you know, as a part of our reserve collection. It's coming from Sonoma County. And you've got, of course, world-class wine region with great vineyard sources. So it's just a really nice complex wine, even for a rosé that, you know, doesn't need to be complex, right? You can just enjoy rosé. But if you want to learn more about it or dive into it, I think you'll really like this one.
Yeah, I'll have to stock up along with my other wines.
Yeah, and it's just so pretty. I mean, I love rosé, and it is the wine that I say if I'm stranded on a deserted island, please just pack me a few cases of rosé, because that is what I will drink.
Is that your favorite varietal?
I mean, I think it just, if I wasn't gonna ever have any other wine, I would definitely continue to enjoy it. But I have so many favorites and from so many different parts of the world. It's hard to pick a favorite.
Yeah, I know you like pizza and prosecco, but
I love pizza and prosecco. Yeah.
good combo.
Yeah. So you guys have Napa Red Blend and Napa Cab, right?
We have Edna Valley, Napa Cab, and yes, and the Red Blend. We talked a little bit about the Edna Valley already. Erica, did you try that one already?
I have been sampling them all. When we were driving in the car, I was sampling the reds.
You went backwards.
Yeah. But I'm going to do the reds again. So.
In the Edna Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that one. So we actually made that wine with a small little vineyard in Edna Valley called Chamisal. It's actually on the back, it says produced and bottled by ONEHOPE in where does it say what town is that?
San Luis Obispo.
San Luis Obispo, that's right. And so that is all their estate grapes. So we can say produced and bottled by, because it was actually made from their estate grapes. So it's a really, really intense, delicious wine. Like I said earlier, I think it just has the right amount of oak, a lot of richness. We say cherry cola on that mostly because we find that cola character coming out of Pinot Noir and also that cherry. And there's something about the oak aging that kind of accentuates that cherry cola. I think it's also a little bit of the vanilla. So cherry cola has a lot of vanilla in it too, even though we don't talk about that. And we all like vanilla. And so it's just a crowd pleaser. I love that wine.
Yeah, me too. My favorite. Awesome. So the red blend. Did you try the red blend, Ryan? No.
Awesome. So you have Napa Valley Red Blend, which is the first wine that Jake poured for me. Then he came back and poured me the cab. This is a really, really fun wine. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I know it's about 83% Cabernet. I'm going to get it wrong, and I should just go grab my notes, but it also has Merlot and Zin and Petit Syrah and Petit Verdot.
Merlot and Zin.
Yeah.
Petit Syrah.
Yeah, and Petit Verdot.
Oh, wow. So that's what kind of sets it apart from the Vintner Red Blend.
Yeah, so fun fact is that in order to bottle a wine in California as a varietal, you have to have 75% of the varietal. So this would classify as a Cabernet because it's 83%. It's 83% Cabernet. I'm pretty sure. I gotta go look, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And so we also blend that with these other varietals. And red blend, something that's really cool about tasting this red blend and then talking about our Vintner Collection California Red Blend is that if you can taste them side by side, they actually have a lot of similarities. And a red blend has been like wildly popular in California because it's kind of the winemaker's blend. It's where you can put your stamp on things because you have creative freedom to do anything that you want. And it also doesn't kind of steer you in one direction or another by each year. So every vintage year, which is what we call the year, if you guys were wondering about this, the date that's on your bottle of wine, so in this one that's 2016, I believe, The date that's on your bottle of wine is the date of the year when the grapes were harvested. So we are approaching the vintage year of 2020. 2020 will be the year that we will harvest grapes. In most likely, it'll be August through October. And from there, those grapes for this red blend, for instance, will actually be fermented, which takes about 10 to 15 days. And then they will go into oak barrels for about 18 months. So you wouldn't see the 2020 vintage come out until 2022 at the earliest. And even 2022, you'd probably stick it in bottle another 6 months or a year before it came out. So that's a long, long time, right? 3 years. 3 years until you see the vintage. So we're enjoying 2016 right now, which, you know, we just released and just came out 3 years later in 2019. And it's a really special thing to think about, like that vintage year. One of the things I can share with you guys that we're doing here on the estate is we're tying the vintage year not only with what was going on with the grapes that year, which I can tell you a little bit about as we enjoy these two, red blend and the Napa cab, but also tying it to what was our impact that year. So that like you can reflect and think about what we did to give back through each bottle while you're thinking about what was happening in nature and to the vines, and like, what does this really taste like? You know, what is this a reflection of? So that's kind of something cool that we're going to be doing here as we open the winery and develop some of our wines. But 2016 is also on the cab, which I have in my glass and is tasting really, really delicious. When I swirl this glass and really smell, so I could try and keep it simple, swirl and smell, I'm just getting so much like dark fruit, like blackberry fruit leather. You know how that smells? Like, did you guys ever have fruit leather as a kid? Like that dried fruit, but it's like
Yeah.
moist. It's moist.
It's not like a fruit roll up. It's like,
yeah, it's like really fruit, right? So you think about kind of like that dried fruit leather being like blackberry, it's like really dark fruit. So a lot of times we talk about fruit being like going from red to black to blue. And a lot of times we see blue fruit in exceptional sites, like even like blueberry. And we also see exceptional like blackberry in really great sites, especially mountainsides, like where we just came from up in Hell Mountain, Mount Veeder, Diamond Mountain, Atlas Peak. These are all places around Napa Valley that are on volcanic soil, which is the result of all the volcanic activity that occurred in this region many, many, many years ago and made Napa Valley what it is. Part that Mediterranean climate and part the soils, right? The soils that have that rich, rich volcanic composition. So really, really cool to see this wine and taste it. It's just got that really pretty kind of black fruit, like a blackberry. A little bit of black cherry, I think.
it smells delicious.
I have a question about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my husband was wondering that, will you change then like the percentage in the red blends of each kind of grape from year to year, or do you try to keep them the same?
That is an excellent question. Typically we have like, you know, kind of our classic, what we go to, but we tweak it each year depending on like what the blend needs, because we're looking for a certain style. And that's why it's kind of like this fashion wine, right? Where it's like winemaker's fashion. So if you were like, just to transcend that to something else for fun, like, you know, oh, I'm really, you know, and maybe you have a certain style. I don't know what, because I don't really have a style. It's like farm girl or something. But like, if you had a really fun style, like maybe it's street style or whatever it is, there'd be certain things that you would wear or that you would buy or that would describe you as that style, right? Does that make sense? Are you guys following me? And then it would be like, you know, that like if you put those other earrings on and that other jacket, like that's going to take you into a different direction, right? So you're kind of like, but I know that if I go with like jeans and sneakers and something black, I'm good, right? Like black t-shirt, black whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to throw this out there for you guys to understand, like inside a winemaker, where you're going for this certain style and you always kind of know what your basics are. You know, like which things, like, okay, I want a Cabernet base and I love Petit Syrah because it adds juiciness. A little bit of Zinfandel even tops that juiciness off, but Petit Verdot kind of helps me get more tannin profile. And I like Merlot because it adds richness and mid-palate and kind of plum fruit. So there's all these little key ingredients. And sometimes from vintage to vintage, you go and you put your basics together and you go, but that shirt is like a crop top and those jeans didn't actually work. You know what I mean? And you're like, I got to change it up. I actually got to like add a long t-shirt. I got to do this. You know, it's just, you think about it like style, like what drives, you know, that kind of that look, but instead it's like what drives that flavor profile. And so you can try to put your basics together, but every year you're tweaking a little because maybe in 2017, you know, the cab wasn't as rich and dense. And so you're trying to pull from the Merlot that did really well that year. Or maybe, you know, this year versus this year, you know, you had something else was going on with your Petit Syrah that just didn't give it that juiciness. You got to add a little more Zinfandel for the juiciness. So it's always kind of like an art of blending. And a blend is truly an art, just like style can be an art. I always admire people that have great style. So that's
So you try to keep the same tasting profile overall?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically in the red blend, you want that classic great style that you love. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So technically that could be a cab, like that's more of a cab.
Yeah. In Napa Valley, where Cab is king, you know, most of your red blends are going to be Cabernet based because that's what grows well here and that's what's expressive. And that makes also just a great base wine because you've got tannin structure, you have aromatics, you have just a lot of fruit. Cabernet has always been known as one of the noble grapes, meaning that it had such a variety of richness that and complex amount of flavor and characteristics that's how it came to fame, because it's not just like a little one trick pony. It's got everything, right? It's like so complex and all just from this one little grape. And that's why I like to say, like, that's why we don't make peach wine and we don't make, you know, wine from other fruits. It's because the grape is so complex and has like so much expansion and livelihood to it. But Cabernet of all the grapes is, you know, really complex. And when you add that to a really great growing region like Napa Valley, you have an excellent wine that I'm enjoying right now. Cheers, guys.
That's awesome. So I know that we used to have, I think it was my favorite bottle a couple of years ago was the Zinfandel. And I know that there's Zinfandel in the Vintner Red Blend. Is there any plans for Zinfandel coming in the future?
Ooh, well, you know what? We are getting right up on the next quarter, so I'm going to be another secret. Can you guys keep a secret? I'm just doing, because I already told you, we already had one secret that Jake also joined and you guys got a virtual tour of Napa Valley, but can you guys keep a secret? I got to know, like, if you're down here and you're not showing me your face, you just need to put a thumbs up if you can keep a secret, okay? Tamika, Trinisha, Giovanna, okay, Tia, Ruth, Alice is on. Can you guys keep a secret?
Yes.
Okay. So this is what I love talking about too. But North Coast Zen is going to be in next quarter's wine club shipment.
So I didn't become a wine club member.
Yes, you're set.
Exclusive?
I don't believe it's exclusive. But it is going to be released and in this next quarter's wine club. So another wine like the Sonoma Rosé that we pulled out, stuck in the cellar, and we're bringing it back to life because we believe that now it's even better than it was when we put it back in the cellar. So that is one answer to your question is yes, we have a reserve Zin coming back out, which I love for this time of year. Zinfandel pairs really well with a lot of different seasonal foods. Tomatoes is actually one that it pairs really well with, and it's kind of hard to pair tomatoes, I think, with food. I mean, you think about Italian pastas and stuff, and you think about Sangiovese, but I think Zinfandel also is really great with tomato dishes and like all the fruits that are in season. It's a bigger red, but you'd be surprised at how well it pairs with like really light, bright, fresh summer produce. So even like your corn on the cob with, you know, all the cheese, how they do like the Mexican flavors of corn on the cob with like the chili and the lime and all the stuff, like that's great with Zinfandel. As you're getting ready to do more like cookouts and barbecues, that's great with Zinfandel. And then just a lot of spicy foods, a lot of Southern foods. Zinfandel can be really great. And the richness and power and kind of sweetness or perceived sweetness of Zinfandel is really great with something like, you know, pulled pork sandwiches and baked beans and flavors that kind of build and have that kind of caramelized profile. So Zinfandel is coming back. Don't tell anyone I told you. But I did want to actually take the time to share with you guys a little bit of my thoughts on the wine club. And this is something I'm really passionate about because I put the wines together every quarter. And I love to give you guys some new ideas and ways to share the wine club, which I think this whole COVID and virtual experience has taught us that we can grow our businesses a lot more than we gave ourselves credit for before COVID, because there's so much you can do that you don't have to just be in person, right, to do. You can connect with people in your network now. I think we've had the tools and been able to connect with people across the country. So no more do you have to like actually be able to physically drive there in order to execute and like gain a customer, right? It's like your network is your oyster, like wherever they are in all the 44 states that we ship to, they can be your customer. So I think that's one of the really cool things. And the other thing is, you know, having subscribers and having customers that are building your impact and your income without you having to put a lot of time and investment in them. But I will say, my favorite thing to share about the wine club is that, you know, we have every quarter some classics from our vintner collection. We have some discovery wines from Napa Valley, got something from our reserve. We try to have sparkling in every quarter's shipment because sparkling is one of our best-selling wines and so popular in our community and for celebrations. It's perfect for wine club. But I think the thing I love about it is if you've got a roster of everybody that's on your wine club. So if you make that note right now, like how many people do you have, or can you pull your, take a look at everybody that you have in wine club. And then when you know that what is in the next wine club, like I just told you Zinfandel, do you have 10 people that you know who have asked you about a Zinfandel? Do you know anybody in your wine club that you could follow up with to talk about Zinfandel? And then when you check in on them after they get their wine club shipment and you say, well, what did you like in there? What did you try? What were your favorites? That is the perfect chance for them to then subscribe to their favorites. So then you can get them as a subscriber, which again continues to help you make your impact. It helps them make their impact and also your business and growing your business. So I think wine club is a great option for your business to like not just set it and forget it, but like set it and then re-engage when it's right for you, right? Because you've got 3 months in the quarter that they're getting. And so it doesn't have to be an evening on a weekend, you know, that conflicts with things that you have going on with your kids or your family. Like the actual in-home tastings can sometimes, you know, inhibit you from having more and more interaction. This is just a way you can reach out. It's really natural and talk about the wine club. So I encourage all of you guys this next quarter and challenge you to take a look at the wine club brochure. Take a look at the offerings. Really take a deep dive into like, what are these? Hi, cutie. I'm a boy mom, so I love little baby boys. Are you 5? Are you 5 or are you 4? I can't tell.
Say hi. Say I'll be 3 in August.
You're only 3?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, you're so big.
You say hi? He will not go to sleep. Daddy's having a hard time putting him to sleep. So.
Oh, I'm a sucker for little boys.
Right? He's like, oh, there's people. Sorry.
Oh, so cute. So anyway, I encourage you, challenge you, inspire you to take the wine club this next quarter. Take a look at what's in it. Find out what you're passionate about. Are any of your favorites in it that like help you to share the club experience? And then also like, you know, that quick just Rolodex through of like, are there any of your customers who've been waiting for this wine or really like this region or have told you they like something about this? And that's a great way to re-engage with those customers. Or, you know, some people have had a lot of success to do like a wine club tasting where you can host, you know, a Zoom tasting or a wine club tasting and maybe use a couple wines from the wine club. So just a couple ideas for you about how you can use that as a tool to grow your business. And of course, you know, each wine is chosen for the season and also to inspire people to have Napa in their home. So that's what we do the best, right? Is we get Napa to your door and they can have that whenever they want. So it's really fun.
And when does this quarter end?
Sorry?
When does the next quarter start again?
July 1st.
July 1st.
So we're just a week away.
Okay, I will be getting that.
I know. I'm like, ooh, I might have to go on my 9 to wine tomorrow and talk about next quarter's wine club because it's just next week.
Yeah, I can't believe it. That went fast.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, a fun fact for you guys on Wine Club. It's just a great way they can get to know the company and a little bit more about ONEHOPE. They get that beautiful wine club insert with more details about the wine. We do like winemaking spotlight, so they learn something, you know, new. This next time we're spotlighting North Coast region because we do have the North Coast Inn coming out. So a little bit more about that region, where it is. It's really fun. It's a really fun way to engage with the brand. I had a question from Tia. Hi, Tia. I know it's hard to choose, but do you have a personal favorite wine? Okay. So truth is like when I'm at the estate, if I'm leaving and I'm like, oh, I really want to take a bottle home. Like, can I have a bottle to take home? I was taking home New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc a lot. Like, I really loved that. I also love Pinot Noir. So the Monterey Pinot is kind of like one of my go-tos. That is actually coming back. I just shipped that today and it's bottled in 2 weeks. So that will be back in stock. So Monterey Pinot, I love Russian River Pinot. I love our Vintner Pinot. I love our Vintner Pinot Grigio because I really do like dry whites. So of our Vintner collection wines, I probably drink the most Vintner Pinot Grigio. And I'm really loving this this Sonoma County Rosé right now. I mean, we just re-released that in June, and I've only had a glass like 1 or 2 times, but I was obsessed. I was like, oh my God, this tastes so good. This tastes so good. So that was really cool. Erica has a question about Malbec. We do have a plan to relaunch some of the Vintner collection right now with, or the international collection, sorry. Right now with COVID, there are some instabilities in our fulfillment, but we do hope to bring some of those favorites back because we know Malbec was super good.
Yeah, I get a lot of requests for the Malbec. I don't know. What Mari, how much, I always was curious, how much wine tasting do you actually do in one day? As far as tasting.
Okay, so this is funny, you guys. I will definitely share this with you. I remember going to my very first winemaking job, which is now over 20 years ago, and I asked the head winemaker I was working for, and I was like, God, there's all this stuff that you're doing. I was like, how much are you actually tasting in a day? And he was like, I am tasting 5% of the time. And so I think that is interesting. I mean, it comes and it goes. So like today I've tasted 3 different wines earlier that I spit out, by the way. I taste and spit. And then I'm enjoying a couple that Jake poured for me, like small little taste. But there are other days where I'm like judging at a wine competition and I have 60 wines before noon that I taste. There's days when I'm blending and I taste, 60 barrels in one morning. That was last week. For instance, when I blended the John Elway Napa Valley Cabernet, and I went through and tasted every single barrel to make sure it was good, and then I put the blend together. So there are some days that I have tastings to go through, like blending trials. But being a winemaker and in our company is like, it means so much more. I have a team right now of 4 people. So I work with my team and try and develop them. Right now we're working on like our big goals for next year. So I've been putting a lot of time into those. That's something I love doing, is coaching and helping people, reach their goals. So I like to spend a lot of time in that. And I have a lot of, former assistants or people throughout the industry that will call me and ask me for advice, and I like to make time for them. But I also am out on the ground talking to the vineyard manager and the construction team and organizing like the next order of operations for our vineyard replant. This morning, I started my morning on a call and a business call, and then I went to Mount Veeder and I checked out some grapes that are available that I'd like. And so I came back and ran a financial analysis on those to determine whether or not those would work in our portfolio, and followed that up with a cost of goods call, like all about our costing. And then I went up to Hell Mountain with Jake and came back, and here I am at virtual tasting. So it's just kind of a day in the life. No 2 days are ever the same. I do spend a lot of time tasting, but it's not as much as you would think. It's not like all day tasting.
Awesome. Erica had one other question. How do you feel about wine aerators?
Oh, that is a good question. Okay, so I used to not like them because my mom would always be like, I aerated this wine, and she would just be like, it's so good now. And I was like, Mom, no, it was good before. Like, what are you doing? Just what happens, right? Sometimes you're like, Mom, what are you doing? But actually, we have tested a couple here. And I like to think that if a wine is released and ready to drink, you don't need an aerator. But I do think they change the flavor. And so if you like the wine better after it goes through the wine aerator, then I think you should totally use the aerator. It does change the flavor for sure. And so yeah, I don't typically use them, but I also don't think that you shouldn't. I think if you try it, I mean, it's kind of a fun experiment, right? Like when you, like if you're, I'm guessing you asked because maybe you've used one before, but if you haven't, oh yeah, perfect. So like you try it without the aerator and then you try it with the aerator. What I like to do is like with the Napa Cab, I don't use like an aerator, but I will taste the wine and then I will leave it open, and then over several days, I will continue to taste it. And what it does is that air tells me how the wine's gonna age. Like, okay, because it's getting more oxygen, which happens over the aging period. So when you aerate it, you're just boosting up the aging time by like a couple years. And so you're like, oh, is this what it's going to taste like when the tannins soften and I get a little bit more air in there? I mean, it's kind of a cool thing. I think it's definitely something that's fun to explore and experiment with. And like, you can definitely enjoy wine, but it's really kind of a discovery thing, right? Like a tool to discover more about what you like about wine.
I just did it, and you can tell a difference with the aerator and without. I did it on the red blend.
That's awesome.
You could definitely tell.
Alongside you.
You could definitely tell.
That's really cool. That actually just gave me an idea for virtual crush, because I'm like, ooh, maybe we should do a little aerator, like one with and one without, and then like side by side tasting. That could be super fun because we're still
there was a noticeable difference.
It's a noticeable difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did you think the one, like, what did you notice most? Like, which one did you like more? Did you like it with the aerator?
I have to do it. Let me do it again. I think I liked it without.
You did?
Mm-hmm. I like the red blend without. I have all 6 bottles here, so like I'm doing the reds all with and then without, going back and forth. But I liked it without. I think the red blend.
Amazing.
So you're saying that if you just leave it uncorked, then you're getting the same effect over a couple days as using an aerator?
What? Oh, if I leave it, if I leave it open, it's just like several days, because what happens is like oxygen starts interacting with your wine, and that is like what increases the aging process. So, as the time and the oxygen even exchange with the cork, and even with the screw cap, you still get some oxygen exchange. So that's a whole development of the wine that you can do kind of quickly with either an aerator or like just leaving the bottle on your counter. So sometimes I'll take barrel samples home and I'll be like, how is this actually going to taste? And I leave it on my counter and I just try a little bit every day, and I kind of can see where it's going, like how much life it has in it by how I'm tasting it. This is a lot of information, you guys. I hope I'm not overwhelming.
No, it's really cool, because I always get questions like, I don't have an aerator, or do we need to use one? And that would be really cool to tell somebody if they don't like the way the wine tastes. Like we always say, try, depends on what you're pairing it with food-wise, but we could also suggest, why don't you try, leaving it
and the next day
open and see if it changes the flavor for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Very cool. Does anybody have any questions before we let?
I have another question.
Okay.
I've been asked a couple times how these wines, because Robert Mondavi's name is on our bottle, how this compares with like the $10 bottle of Robert Mondavi wine at the store. Why is our wine so much better and more expensive?
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good question. Well, the Robert Mondavi wine at the store is no longer made by Robert Mondavi. So that is the first answer. So several years ago, a big company called Constellation Brands, which is a global wine company, purchased Robert Mondavi Winery. So Rob Mondavi Jr. doesn't make those wines anymore. He makes wines with us, and he also makes a small group of wines that are from his family. So they have M by Michael Mondavi, his father. They have the Animo brand and the Emblem wines, and those are all reserved Napa Valley wines. So that would be my first response if somebody asked that. It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because I haven't heard that before, but I could see how that could be confusing. And our wines are better than those, primarily because our team is focused on making wines that represent Napa Valley. One thing I was going to mention earlier is that, our Napa Valley red blend and our Vintner red blend would be really fun to taste those side by side, because what we do with our Vintner collection, which is meant to be more affordable, coming from California, is really make sure that the flavors that are pronounced in Napa Valley are represented there. So that means the oak regime, That means putting that blend together, like I said. So stylistically, you have two sisters that dress the same, right? They might live in different places, but they kind of dress the same, and you know that they're family. That's kind of how you can think about those two different blends.
Awesome.
Well, Jenna, this was amazing. Thank you guys for your patience. I actually would apologize more for being late, but I think it was actually to your benefit that we got a little time with Jake, and we also got to kind of cruise through Napa Valley and show you kind of a day in the life. Thanks for all the great questions. This was definitely one of the really fun tastings, and I could talk on and on and on, but my family will probably wonder where I am pretty soon.
Yes, you've had a long
There's
day.
that.
Thank you, Mari.
Thank you all so much. Continue doing great things. I love that you guys are together. One thing that I think, you know, really helped my team that I work with here at the winery stay close was that we did like regular team meetings, and we went out of our way to make time to connect and get together. There was a while during COVID where we met every single morning for a half an hour. And then we kind of weaned ourselves off to like 3 days a week. And then we weaned ourselves off to 2 days a week. And then now I've just kind of, you know, we've evolved, I'd like to say, to where I'm just kind of having an office hour 1 day a week outside of our normal, regular scheduled meetings where we discuss multiple topics. But it's great, Jenna, that you're making space for your team and listening and bringing people together. Strong teams make a big impact together, and all working toward the same goals, and sharing wines and learning new things is just really special. So thank you all for dedicating a little time for yourself and your business and your team and sharing wine with me.
Thank you.
So much for taking the time to do this tonight.
Absolutely. Congratulations, and enjoy, everybody. And be on the lookout for that wine club, and don't tell anyone.
You better believe I'll be the first one on there to collect first.
Thank you.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna, for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.